Welcome back to this week's episode of the Face Yoga Expert podcast. And this week I am very excited because my guest is Kelsey Patel. Now, if you're a long-time listener of the podcast, you may remember Kelsey from all the way back in 2020. We were in the depths of lockdown. We recorded over Skype. Remember when we all used Skype rather than Zoom? And we had the most deep and fascinating conversation. And I actually think that podcast episode was called My Most Vulnerable Podcast Ever. And I really think actually to this day, it absolutely was. I massively opened up, Kelsey opened up, and it was almost that energy of we're all in this together. We're all in lockdown. Even though Kelsey was all the way over in LA and I was here in Bath in the UK, we really connected on so many levels. And this week, I am excited to have her back 5 years later, and you are not going to want to miss this episode. We go deep again. Kelsey opens up, she shares her story, she also gives wonderful advice and tips. I know you are going to absolutely love this episode. You are going to want to share it with all your friends because it is full of so much wisdom. Now, before we get into this week's episode, I just want to give you a reminder of the Face Yoga Teacher Training course. There is a special bonus offer on at the moment where you get a free VIP call with me. Now, bear in mind, you'll only have a couple of days left after this podcast comes out to grab the offer. You can get the Face Yoga Teacher Training at any point, but this special bonus call finishes on the 30th of September. So just head to faceyogaexpert.com for all the information on this teacher training course. So without further ado, let's get into this week's episode with Kelsey Patel. Kelsey, a warm welcome back to the Face Yoga Expert podcast, 5 years on.
I cannot believe it. As I was just telling you, I'm so happy to see you and have watched what you've done in those 5 years. We had such a connection. I love and adore you, and I'm just so happy to be back in this way of uniting again.
Likewise. And our conversation 5 years ago to this day is still one of my favorite conversations I've had on the podcast. And I've been doing it 5.5 years now. We're both fully in lockdown. I remember that you were so kindly and beautifully guiding me through how to navigate life with my eldest daughter, because at the time my eldest daughter was probably about 7, my youngest I think was 3 or 4, and she was struggling with being pulled away from her school and her friends and everything. And I remember that you were, oh, it was just lovely.
I remember it so well, and it gave me chills when you were just talking, and it actually makes me misty-eyed because while we're not in a pandemic right now, I'm on the other side of I have a daughter who's 3.5 now, so I often think back to anybody listening also who had a child after the pandemic. I look at the lens sometimes, and I think we've all had, like, a little bit of amnesia from the pandemic because you
So
have to
true.
find a coping mechanism to move on
Yeah.
in some ways and also to embrace the trauma and the experience. But I look at it now and I'm like, I don't know how my friends and colleagues did it with young children at home. I really have a whole different look and perspective now as a mother. So I constantly, have the most utmost reverence that women are still alive and their children are alive and that everybody made it through because
Yeah,
that
we made it
is
through.
crazy.
We all made it through, and actually, we all had different situations that we were struggling with, but there was also light in the dark. I remember us also talking about that chance to pause and to slow down and to reflect. So it's interesting because I look back on that time with almost two different lenses. One of, I guess, sadness in a lot of ways, but also one of joy that it was such a unique and special time, not only as a mother, but just as an individual too. And even just diving deeper into the podcast at the time and us connecting and connecting with other amazing people from around the world. There was so many things that we did, which perhaps we wouldn't have done a year before that or 2 years before that.
I agree, and I think many of us, I shouldn't say all, were also on the hamster wheel in our lives at that time, because I think at that point, social media was really ramping up, but we were all still, actively, in offices or doing work and kind of always outside of the home.
Yeah.
And I think if you look around, a lot of people, so many things, the landscape of people's day-to-day lives has shifted so much. And I actually attribute COVID to the reason I got pregnant with my daughter,
Wow.
because I was always traveling, I was always on a plane, I was teaching somewhere and leading things. And I don't know if I would have had the ability to stop on my own, And so I think that forced pause. I mean, I remember seeing images of things in nature, like, I think it was in Venice, the Venice canals, places in the world that hadn't had sort of this sense of vibrancy and the ecosystem health, and things that were coming back online that had been sort of devastated by usage and mankind. And so I think that pause for many of us was so important.
Was so important. And I love that from all of that, it brought to you motherhood. I mean, the most amazing gift. How are you finding life as being a mother?
I love it. I would really say it's taken me, she's 3.5. Well, I keep calling her 3.5. My husband says she's 4 because her birthday's in a month. But I think every mother does this. Like, I'm holding on to the last stage of age 3. Every time she says how old she is, I'm like, you're 3. Remember, you're only 3. Um, but I think it's taken me this long, if I'm honest, to really fall into the rhythm, because I had my daughter at age 40. She was not planned. We were not trying to conceive. And, we had a whole plan after our youngest. I'm a stepmom,
Mhm.
and I've been a stepmom for many years. And after our youngest graduated high school, we wanted to move to Europe, to Portugal for a little while. And I got pregnant that spring that he was going to be graduating high school. And so our whole life changed. And I think when you have lived the majority of your life without that that really, really deep intrinsic sense of motherhood, it was hard for me to navigate my sense of self, my creative independence, I really had a struggle after the first couple years of identifying myself, because nothing, and I've seen this now in so many women and perhaps yourself, I couldn't go back to doing what I was. Frankly, I didn't have the capacity. I mean, I was a world renowned Reiki master. I was teaching all over the world. And I no longer, after giving birth, I thought I was going to get back in, start teaching my courses again. I had a whole plan, and I was like, this is physically, mentally, and emotionally impossible, because I couldn't give the way that I used to be able to give. I had to give to myself. I was breastfeeding for a very long time. We moved, like, our whole life changed. My whole foundation was just pretty much destroyed, and I had to build a new one. And so now I can very comfortably sit in this seat of motherhood and really own it. But I think it took me this long to get here.
Yeah. And do you miss that old life? Do you miss going round on the planes and being on whatever the stages of TV shows?
What a great question. No wonder you have such a successful podcast. Um, I miss parts of myself, but I love this new skin that I am in. I have really shifted. I've navigated it at times gracefully and at times very ungracefully. I've had my very fair share of breakdowns. And I think this me was always inside, but it took all of this sacred struggle and vulnerability that motherhood brings to land myself here. And it is so powerful. Like, I sit from a place of deeply rooted innate strength. And I don't think I ever had that. Frankly, I didn't really need it before. Like I was strong and I struggled. I mean, if anybody cares to learn more, I wrote a whole book, but I really struggled. I had a mom who suffered from bipolarity and depression and mental health, and I had chronic back pain. And so I've had my share of things, but I still didn't know this strength. I think I walked around with just, I wouldn't even call it mild anxiety. I think I just walked around in a state of anxiousness, but not really understanding or knowing that I was anxious or that I could live differently. And I know so much more now. And I needed to go through all of that to get to her here and now. And she's awesome.
It's awesome. I love that. And being a mum, I'm a mum of girls as well. And there's just something about being a female and bringing up females that just, I don't know about you, but on a daily basis, I'm checking in with myself to see the female that I am being, to be aware that they're seeing that in me. And I often wonder, would I be the same as if I was bringing up boys? And maybe the answer is yes. I mean, I'll never know. But it's something, and I don't know about you, but I also feel deep down I was meant to be a girl mum.
I think
I really
you're
do.
absolutely right. I had a very deep mother wound.
Mm.
And I love my mom and we're very, very close, but she struggled deeply and she had a very, very intense mother wound. And so I think our children are brought to us for the maximum potential for healing,
Mm.
whatever that may be. So the moms of boys or the moms of mixed boys and girls or they or whatever it may be, I think that our children are this massive God-given opportunity to do the work,
Do the
frankly.
work. So
Yeah. And whether or not it's your sense of self, your sense of confidence, whatever the battles are, because we all have them. And so much of them are rooted in unconscious childhood beliefs
true.
and what was shown to us, what we just navigated through unconsciously and developed our whole world around that. And so I think now I look at my daughter and you're right. I mean, everything I say, I mean, we have this sort of ritual where, if I'm taking a shower or a bath or she pops in or if we take one together, I rub oils on my body in front of her and she'll pump the oil
Oh,
and rub it on my legs or my back and I'll rub it on her and it's this beautiful moment and we're naked and we're just in this like beautiful harmony together of sometimes we don't even talk, we're just like loving on each other's skin. And if I do say anything, I'll say, oh, mommy has such a beautiful body, I love to take care of my body. And then she'll do it to herself. And those are the things that I'm so proud of, that in many ways I don't know if I would have been able to do that as a young mother.
mhm.
And at the age that I'm at, and I think you can do this at any age, I just didn't have the maturity or the healing work to do it. But I love now, like we paint together and all these things of presence. And I have, I'm not a full-time mom. She goes to a little school, we have support. My husband's an incredibly, active co-parent. And but in the moments that I am with her, it is so important to me how I language, how we connect, the presence that I give to her.
Yeah. And you're breaking that generational trauma.
100, and my mom's even said it,
Yeah.
she's acknowledged it like, wow, you are doing such a good job in different work. And I'm like, and I'm also doing many things wrong that I just don't know.
Yeah.
And
How
she'll
we
tell
how we
me
know.
that.
Yeah, they'll tell
Sure.
us.
Yeah,
Like, this
she's
is the
gonna make
thing.
sure I know. Yeah.
And for me, I have to try and put aside that fear because I know for me there is a fear around that because I'm like you, I've consciously done the work, I'm doing the work every single day. I'm trying to break the ancestral and the generational trauma as time goes on. But I still have this fear that they're going to become an adult, they're going to look back and go, Mum did it all wrong. She did this, that, this. I've got trauma because of it. And I know that my work now is to make peace with that because it may well happen. Because their perspective is going to be different from my perspective. It's going to happen. And that isn't the easiest thing.
Yeah, we are having very similar journeys right now, Danielle. And I hope, many of the moms, out there that I'm sure are listening, or non-moms, to me, it's not about getting it right, because we're not going to. And so if you just allow yourself the expectation that you're going to get things wrong,
Yeah.
then what you can bring in is the repair. And that to me, like, it gives me chills. That to me is the magic sauce,
Yeah.
is when you give yourself that radical permission to get it wrong,
Yeah.
because you are human and because we all have our own stuff. But you learn how to do an incredible connected repair. And so even the other night, I was so pissed off at my daughter because it was like a wake up in the middle of the night, and then brought her back to bed, and it was like blah, 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 blah. And then had her go pee. And then 45 minutes later, I was just about to fall back asleep, and she came in because she had peed the bed. And normally it's, oh, I understand, accidents happen. But that night I was just huffing and puffing, and I was pissed off, and I was tired. And the next morning when we connected, I was still pissed because I was tired, and I was, my body doesn't just fall right back asleep when I'm up in the middle of the night, right?
Yeah.
And and it, there was one moment where we were going downstairs, and I could feel I was just so mad. And I paused and I said, Alma, can we pause for a second? And she stood there, just these big doe eyes looking at mommy. And I said, I want to let you know I'm feeling very upset about being so tired from our wake ups last night. And I said, and I also want to tell you that I'm sorry mommy was so mad last night. I was really tired and my body did not like being awake. So I want to just say I'm sorry if I wasn't very kind. And we hugged, and that's okay, mommy. And I was like, oh, and I looked at her and I said, it's mommy's job to help take care of you because you're still learning. And she goes, I'm still learning, mommy, but it's okay. And we hugged and went on with the day. But I needed to acknowledge and share. Like, I don't even know. I'm sure her nervous system remembered, but I don't even think she remembered. But I needed to have that moment of repair so that we could flow into the morning, and I wasn't holding resentment, and I wasn't just, you know, funneling that in an unhealthy way.
Yeah, of course. And it's the acknowledgement not only to yourself, but as she gets older. I mean, my eldest will be 13 next month. So I'm, 10 years further on into that. I mean, we're the same age, but I've got the 13-year-old. And actually, she's able to tell me what I'm doing wrong. And it's actually just pausing and saying, yeah, you're right. I did do that wrong. And I'm sorry. And that's all I can do. And I remind myself, I can't be perfect. I can't do it all right. But when they do come to me and say, actually, mum, you upset me with that, or I felt like you didn't come and be there for me with that, or whatever it might be. And they might not say it in that way, but the energy sometimes shows that I can then come in and go, yeah, I'm sorry. And what can I do for you now? And it's not easy. It's not easy,
Oh,
but
because
it's,
sometimes you just want to, well,
yeah.
I have feelings too, and I'm mad. Oh, or I had a bad day, and it is just such an opportunity. And, but also when you're tired, when you're, having other conflict in your life,
Yes.
wherever it is, it's very easy to misplace those emotions and have the outbursts. And the same thing happens for our kids. I don't know all the micro moments that she had at school that could be why she has this disruption, or same with your daughter. We don't know the worlds that they're navigating, and we're not meant to. But so it can always sometimes come out sideways. She might not be really mad at you, but she's mad at something else. But it's easier to, the way that it's expressed, and that is challenging. And we have to have our outlets for ourselves to be able to meet those demands.
We do. And talking about navigating other things, I know you've been on your own health journey over the last few years. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, for anyone out there who has had their journey with this, they will really, really land and resonate. We had toxic mold in our house and didn't know it. It was actually in my daughter's bedroom, and it was the sides of, we have a fireplace, and it was the sides of the walls. So it must have been coming from the fireplace. And we had bought this house after my daughter was born. And did all the checks and everything. And but it doesn't rain that much in LA. And we had this deep, deep rain. And the whole house her walls started leaking. And so our friend said, "Oh, you should open it up to see where the leak was." Well, we didn't know anything about mold. So we opened up the walls and just put like a little piece of plastic on it so it wasn't fully open, but didn't even know the mold was there. And about a week after the walls had been opened, my daughter was still sleeping right in between the walls. Thankfully, she had a few fevers in the time that we had the mold just open and having a heyday in our home. Um, but she was okay, but it just these fevers, like a little bit of a bladder thing. But I had woken up a week after the walls were open, and I had basically turned in bed in the night and had crazy vertigo, which I'd never had. And long story short, I went on this several month long journey of navigating what could possibly be wrong with me, because I just felt this constant state of disequilibrium. Like I couldn't feel balanced. If I sat down, if I laid down, it was awful. It was only if I was standing or walking that I was okay. And so, the classic diagnosis for that is inner ear, something else. Well, it turns out if you get a neurotoxin in your brain and you have a high allergy to that neurotoxin, there's going to be inflammation, all the limbic system, like everything was activated. I also think I had gotten a neck injury from a hot yoga class that same day that I had done. So I think it was a kind of a compilation of things I was taking. And for your audience, I'm very happy to share this. I was also taking a lot of supplements, like way too many, and with a practitioner who did nutrition response testing. And I always loved it and believed in it. But at some point, I was like, I don't know if taking 40 supplements a day is good for my body, and then changing it every week. So, long story short, I think a lot of things were not harmonized in my life and in my body. So then you add a neurotoxin and it just explodes the system. And we ended up through this incredible man in LA who is crazy about mold testing. We figured out not only did my daughter's room have it, but we were actually living in a home of mold that was in our kitchen. It was in our kitchen island. So every time we were opening it, we were getting stachybotrys in our faces. It was underneath our home coming up. So all these hidden places. And, you know, everything in hindsight, we are so thankful that all of it happened. Like I was the canary in the coal mine for my family, sadly, but also fortunately.
Yeah.
So we had to go on this journey of construction. I mean, my veins were sore because I was always getting blood work done. I was getting brain scans done. I was carrying around jugs of pee to time my pee to check. Like I went on a horrible, necessary life journey, and I really got faced with what I now know was probably my biggest fear. That was so subconscious in sort of my belief systems, which was for me becoming like my mother, who was in and out of psych wards for much of my life, struggled severely with mental health, and getting a neurotoxin in your brain is a total mental health disruptor. I stopped sleeping for, I mean, there was like 48 hours where I didn't sleep for 1 second. And that alone will make a person feel crazy. And for the first time in my life, I thought I would never, ever take psychiatric medication. I had to take it because I couldn't sleep. I thought I would never, ever, just these
Mhm.
things. One morning I told my husband, you need to take me to the psych ward. I can't live like this. And so I had to really get so resolved in like in deepening my connection to my biggest fear. I never thought, Danielle, that there would be a world where I would live an experience that I witnessed of my own mother, because I did everything in my life
Yeah.
to not be like her.
Yeah.
My whole career was
Every
like, not
moment.
whole, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
Every moment, every part of your
every
life, every part of your
moment,
business. Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
Like I did it all
Everything.
so I wouldn't ever, and I didn't even realize that I was doing all these things to not be like her. That was the why.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't know that
Hmm.
until I really got faced with, well, I feel like I'm gonna die. I kind of want to die. What do I do with this? And I realized, oh my God, this is my life's biggest fear, is becoming like her and being in and out of psych wards and kind of unavailable to my daughter for being having this instability in my presence in her life, and navigating your deepest fear when it is in your body
Hmm.
is terrifying.
Terrifying. So terrifying. And I guess you're looking back on that now and knowing you had to go through that. And that was the only way to let go of that fear that you were probably living from every single day. Because once you're faced with it, once you live it, once you are it, there's no fear anymore. Because you're it. You're it.
All over my body is like, I got such a gift
Yeah.
in sickness, and
Yeah.
I just want to say, I really thought I was never going to make it out of it. I mean, I had at one point I had a sty on my eye for 12 weeks, and I was like, "Oh, it's so big now I think I'm going blind in the left eye." And I was so unshockable at that moment that I was like, "Yeah, I guess I'm going to be blind in my left eye." Like everything was just, yeah,
You didn't care. You didn't care.
I didn't care. I was like, "This is how it is. This is
Yeah.
what it's going to be."
Yeah.
And it also, and I say this with so much heart, because if anyone listening or anyone out there has had struggles with a parent or a family member or with themselves of mental health, I always had a lot of sympathy and forgiveness and empathy for my mother, but I still didn't really know what she was going through because I couldn't understand it. And having gone through what I went through, I was able to repair, and it's not fully repaired, but I was able to heal so much with her because I said, Mom, I don't know how you lived all these years if you were struggling like this. I don't I don't know. Like, I'm so sorry for what you went through. I'm so sorry for your pain. And obviously, we all experience it with a different lens, but the root of it, the pain of it, the like tragedy of living in that realm, in that way of not wanting to live. And I had no idea what she went through. And this gave me a beautiful reparation with my own mother. Very hard won and hard earned.
Mhm.
Um, but she, I mean, and the irony was the mother who wasn't really always able to be there for me. She was in many ways and then wasn't when she was sick,
Mhm.
in and out. She was one of the only reasons I was able to make it through when I was sick. I talked to her every day, sometimes multiple times a day. She was my voice to carry on. And I said to her, Mom, I said to God, if for the only reason, God, not the only, but if for the main reason that you had this mother in my life, this was all the pain was worth it because she pulled me through that dark, dark night, multiple months. I mean, she pulled me through. And had she not been through the hell that she had been through, she wouldn't have known how to
Couldn't have
do
done
it.
it. She wouldn't have known. She had that empathy, and now you have that deep empathy for her. And it's part of the healing. And all that healing you've done, that's the deepest healing you could have done. To really feel and experience what she went through as a mother of a young child, who was, of course, you. You went through the exact same thing, and you felt that love and that empathy and that understanding for her. And she, maybe for the first time, she was fully able to step into her role as your mother. And you've healed not only your relationship with each other, but that's going to heal generations of women to come in your family. I can just feel it.
I have my makeup on, otherwise I would start to sob and cry. And I never put makeup on, so I'm not going to ruin it today, Danielle.
Don't
But
ruin it. Don't
that brings
ruin
me
it.
so much emotion in my heart because, and even to your point earlier of the fear of it coming back to you, I would even implore you to navigate the opposite,
Mm,
the joy of being able to
yes.
be messy and to mess up because your daughters will have their hardships
Yes.
and they need to see a mom who doesn't do things perfectly so that she can pull them through their darkest moments and hardest experiences because she has lived and had the wisdom of experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm.
And I want to slightly change gears. I mean, I could talk about this for hours on end. I want to talk just a little bit about Reiki to you. That's how we first connected and met. That's how I knew you originally. I did your lovely Reiki 1 and 2 training via Heather, actually, which was, I think, 2021 or 2022. I think we were still in some form of lockdown, and I did it via Zoom with Heather, and it was amazing. And it opens up so much for me spiritually, and I was already on that journey anyway. But I remember to this day the attunement. And isn't it amazing where you can have an attunement via Zoom? And I don't think I even watched that part live on Zoom. I think I had to watch a recording part of that because of the time difference. But still, it was one of the deepest spiritual experiences I have ever had, that attunement. And since then, it has just really opened a massive journey for me, which continues to open every single day. And although I'm not practicing Reiki, I knew I wasn't going to practice Reiki on clients myself. I knew I was just going to weave it into what I do and what I offer. But I knew it was also just going to be for me and part of my journey. And it really still is every day. And I'm so intrigued to know what form or what part Reiki has in your life today.
Such an important question for me because this will probably be surprising, or maybe not, because life is so crazy. Funny enough, after I had my daughter, I had these experiences of feeling, I'll say the word attacked, but that's not the right word. I was so incredibly postpartum, and I got messages from people who were either, similarly new navigating motherhood or having sort of their own health crisis or a relationship crisis, like SOSing me for Reiki.
Wow.
And I was so, and when you're postpartum, it's like you have
No.
to
Yeah.
boundary and you don't even try. And it's just like, "Phew, you will not come into my space."
Mhm.
And again, there's nothing wrong with what these people did. There's nothing, they were in a place of pain and a state of fear. So it really has nothing to do with that. What it did for me though, is it actually made me realize that I needed to change my relationship with Reiki, with being a healer, all of it.
Yeah.
And so funny enough, and I did a lot of therapy on this because in many ways I felt like I didn't have permission to stop doing Reiki. And so I had probably like a year's worth of navigating what my new way of existing would be in the world if I wasn't known for this. And or if this wasn't my main sort of projection and ability, if you will.
Or the label that you're given in many
Yes.
ways.
And
It's a Reiki healer. Yeah. Yeah.
and all the things that were attached to it, sense of purpose, sense of beauty. I've probably at this point have thousands of students out in the world, um, have courses online, like everything. And I made this very important and difficult decision to stop doing Reiki entirely. And I was so scared because again, like when you've helped facilitate something into people's lives and you've been kind of known for it, it was a really scary moment for me to kind of again like shed another layer. And funny enough, I am so glad I did because I hadn't gotten sick with mold yet. And if I hadn't done it before that moment in my life, it could have broken me even further.
Yes, absolutely. As
You
well
know,
as being a mother as well.
to feel this,
Yeah.
it was almost like I needed to close off any ties to feeling responsible for anybody else. And I know that I'm not responsible for any, like all that. But when you have
I get that completely. The
so
word
many,
responsible is like my
yes,
word. I
yes,
heal with every session and
yes,
every healing I've ever
yes,
done. So I get
exactly.
that, just that word. I get it.
Just that word.
Yeah.
And again, like I want to be clear, nobody's asking me to do it. But I had so many clients. I mean, I have like 10,000 people on my newsletter. I had, all these places where I was offering just these copious amounts of love and healing. I would do free Reiki Friday on my Instagram. I would get, hundreds of comments of people wanting to send Reiki for things. So one could say I did it to myself, but I knew that in order for me to be responsible for the actual one thing that I was, which was my daughter and myself and, my family, my home, I needed to fully pull the plug. And I did sort of silently because at that point I didn't need to like expose it and express it to anybody. And then, even to this day, some of my friends or old colleagues, if we go to an event, they'll be like, Kelsey's the most amazing healer. You gotta do a session with her. And it's a little awkward for me because I'll be like, actually, I'm not doing healing anymore. Or sometimes I just don't say anything because I'm just like, it's a passing moment. And it was really hard. And I think a lot of what happened when I got sick with mold, I always say I've had two rebirths in the last 4 years, the birth of my daughter, shed a layer of like individual self Kelsey to mother, the maiden to the matron. And the feeling getting sick and all that I had to drop in order to kind of be reborn with myself to this other side. And my faith became stronger than it's ever been. But now it's only for me.
Yes.
And my connection with God is so profound, Danielle. I found a reconnection to the faith that I had growing up as a child. And I always had it. It carried with me in my Reiki and everything I did, I always brought it with me. But it has exacerbated tenfold. And so now if people ask me, will you pray with me or will you pray for me? I'm like, yes. Like, what are we praying for? And that feels so much more like I'm able to give it away to God. I don't have to take any responsibility for it
Yeah.
because I can trust what's always been bigger than me to do the thing. And then I don't have to take it into my vessel and my being. It's very clear now.
It's very clear, and I can see as you talk about it a lightness, and it's almost like I feel like it's reignited your inner child. And it's interesting how you say you've connected to a faith you had as a child, and that part of you is being allowed to be shown now. That part of you that doesn't have to be responsible, which literally is your inner child. I'm so happy for you. And you know, it's so inspiring as well to see how brave you are to be able to shed that layer, because it's not easy when that has formed who you are for decades. So, actually, to be able to just either stand there in your faith and in your silence and not need to say anything, or just to be able to say, that's not me anymore, and own that.
It is. Thank
So
you for
brave.
seeing me. Thank you for seeing me, because it's always like I can liken it to like I'm in the eye of the storm and everybody is swirling all these projections of, things around me. And I'm just like, oh, I'm so at peace right here. It's just me and God. And we are doing our dance and it is magical.
I love that. And what's your favorite thing to do from a, dare I say it, professional point of view now? So I know you still work with women. I know you still love helping people and connecting with community. What lights you up now?
Speaking. So it's funny, it's exactly, and writing. It's the two things that I've always loved to do. I wrote my first book with Penguin Random House, Burning Bright. I'm working on a second book right now.
So exciting.
And I hope it's going to be called Letters to Amma, and it's letters to my daughter, but it's all about, just navigating life. It's so special. It's such a special, special project to me. Like I'm leaving on Sunday to go speak at a women's conference in Mexico. And it's a like 3-day retreat. So I get to speak and do one event and then I get to receive the rest. So what lights me up now is being in community, in as much as possible live community with women. Especially I'm open to all community, but I really have such a place for connecting with women, and really now is to help women feel safe in their brains and in their bodies.
Kelsey, I can just feel that this is a new era for you. I am so excited for you. It's just such a, I just feel like it's a rebirth. It really is. I mean, you've always had amazing energy, but to see that you've actually gone through all of these stages in 5 years. In less
Four,
time than that,
not
maybe
even
four
four.
years. Yeah, exactly. Since we last spoke, 5 years. But I'm just excited for you and for your future. I can see that you're just really grounded.
Yeah. I would love to leave with this is, I think for so long, and I think this is society, it's not just what I grew up with in my family, but I built my foundation on my sense of purpose, right? On my work and being a contributor to the world. I mean, I started working when I was 12. Like, I think my foundation was built upon my value proposition and what I could do and how I did it and what I offered. And when I had my daughter and when I got sick, I realized, I said this to my sister last night, oh, I didn't realize that I was standing on the wrong foundation. So I flipped my foundation, and now the base of my foundation is my community. It is my family, my friends, it is my home, it is my neighbors, it is my community. And from that, everything else is now being built on top. And I don't think I ever realized until I was sick and I needed everybody to cocoon and support me. And I'd always been the one supporting others. And I was forced, to my knees. Every night I was on my knees praying to God. I was like, God, if you can heal me, then I know you can create miracles. Then I know you are miraculous. And I didn't think it was possible. And when I watched the way everyone came around me, my sister and her wife would come and take care of our daughter, and my husband and my mother and my best friend Rachel, and people that I never thought had the capacity to support me because of their own stuff. When I watched how deeply loved and cared for I was, even the woman who helps cook sometimes and she trains us, Lisa, like when I watched that and I let myself land in it, all I've been doing over this last year since getting better is nurturing that now first. And my daughter, like, and then everything else builds off of that. And that's why I am so grounded.
Yeah. And I think that that is the way that we all need to start working towards going. I mean, I really do. I'm feeling that same pull within me of, I mean, I connect so much with my friends and family community as it is, but I'm feeling this pull for more simplicity around that and deeper connections around that, because I think our world is changing and I think it's going to continue to change. And I think all we have got is our inner faith, whatever that is, and our friends and our family. If we can just hold on to that, exactly. If we can hold on to that, that's all we need.
Amen, Danielle.
Thank you, Kelsey. Will you let everyone know where they can just connect with you and hear more about some of the beautiful things you do, the speaking, the retreats, etc.?
Absolutely. On social media, I'm at Kelsey J Patel, Kelsey with an EY. And I'm just starting to get back online. I go kind of in phases, but now it's going to be very, very consistent. My website is kelseyjpatel.com. And I also own a hotel with my husband called Miracle Manor. So if you're ever in LA and you want to get out to Palm Springs, we're in the desert. It's all natural healing, hot springs water. And I lead regular twice a year women's retreats there. So I would love to have any of you come. And yeah, please, if you enjoyed our episode, please just come and say hi and introduce yourself. I'm always in my DMs connecting with my audience and community.
Kelsey, thank you so much. And let's not leave it 5 years until next time. Let's do it sooner.
Much sooner. Oh, all the love to you. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.